Introducing TurboGrafx-16, the next generation video game system. It's 4 times faster, so the games are more exciting. There are almost 10 times as many colors, so the arcade quality graphics are
The hype. Man, the hype was real. Hi everybody, this is The Lost Boy and thanks for watching. Today I'll be doing an unboxing of the new TurboGrafx-16 Mini, as well as a comparison against the original TurboGrafx-16 hardware. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing, and remember to hit the notification bell if you'd like to see new videos when they come out. So the new TurboGrafx Mini released recently, although it's technically not available still in North America as far as I know. It was an Amazon exclusive. It was supposed to be available last month, but it was announced that the release would be delayed due to a certain virus that's been making the rounds lately. I got my heads up from another channel on YouTube called Mad Little Pixel. He mentioned in a video that you could pick these up from Amazon Japan, so I went on, made an account, and picked one up. Box is definitely a little hard to open. I like to be pretty careful with these boxes, keep them in nice shape. If you've ever seen one of the original boxes, you can tell that the design of this one is highly inspired by the original box design. One thing I did notice was that there's a Konami logo on the box, which I thought was a little interesting because the original company to put out the TurboGrafx was a company called NEC. I don't see the NEC logo anywhere on the box. Here we have the instruction manual. You might need someone to explain to you how to use the turbo functions. Here's the new controller. Looks like the old controller. Actually feels really good when you hold it. Feels like it's got a good weight. Feels like it's got good build quality. The controllers for this Mini were apparently made by Hori, which is a very well-known and very well-liked company. And here's the turbo. It's actually a lot bigger than you might think. Not nearly as mini as some of the other mini consoles. Keeping it consistent, you can see they have the back cover part there, which clips on and off, just like the original. Here you've got your micro USB and your HDMI port, which both have different little egress holes for the wires to come out. And here's the original TurboGrafx. Looks like it could really use a bit of a cleanup there. So with one placed on top of the other like that, you can see the Mini is smaller, but it's not nearly as much smaller as one might have expected. And here they are side by side. Also, did a close-up of the controllers. I noticed when you put them right next to each other, you can see that the original controller is actually slightly larger. But that's the only difference other than the length of the controller cord, which is like about 3 times longer on the Mini. Now we'll get into a little bit of footage comparison. Here's Bonk's Revenge from 1991. We'll do a little bit of full screen here at first with Bonk's Revenge, and then we'll get into some side-by-side. Between the fact that the cord length is so much longer than the original, and for the fact that they included games for both the TurboGrafx-16 and the games for the Mini PC engine, this mini console seems to be one of the more generous, when compared with some of the others. First impressions, although the Mini TurboGrafx does seem to have clearer, sharper pixels, it also seems to be a little dimmer, or not as bright with the colors. For the purposes of comparison, I kept things mostly consistent, but there are some other differences, such as with the RetroTink, there's a smoothing option that's available, and with the TurboGrafx-16 Mini, there are quite a few different display options, so you can choose Pixel Perfect or different options for displaying your screen. And here's Blazing Lasers from 1989. One of the excellent library of space shooters, or shmups as they're also called. Does anyone else actually hate the word shmups? I just hate it. With all the space shooters, I'm using the turbo function for shooting. I'm pretty sure most of these games would be basically impossible without it. Here we have R-Type from 1989. This was one I noticed on Mad Little Pixels channel. He pointed out there's actually a shimmer in the TurboGrafx-16. If you look especially at the surfaces on the bottom and you compare the Mini to the original hardware, you'll see the emulator in the Mini is doing some strange kind of shimmering thing that doesn't occur on the original hardware. Splatterhouse from 1990. Can you believe this game would have been considered controversial at the time? Funny enough, I actually had a TurboGrafx-16 as a kid when it was relatively new in the market. Our family had been given an NES from my uncle when I was about 9 or 10, and we had a few good years with that. But when the TurboGrafx-16 commercials started coming on TV, I gotta say, I was swept up in the hype. I made it my personal mission that I wanted to own one, and so I set about a plan of flipping my NES for a TurboGrafx-16. It's all a pretty dim memory. I'm not really sure who we sold the NES to, that part is kind of gone. But I do remember getting my new TurboGrafx-16 home and being absolutely thrilled for about a day and a half. I spent a good few hours playing around in Keith Courage and Alpha Zones, and I realized this game is not excellent. But you know, it was a pack-in game. There had to be lots of other cool games. Like maybe, you know, the ones that actually got me interested in the TurboGrafx. Games I played at the kiosks in Radio Shack. Like honestly, mainly the Bonk's games. Bonk's Adventure, Bonk's Revenge. So popping back into Radio Shack, I looked through the rest of the games and quickly realized there's really not that many games here. At that point, I had a slow, creeping suspicion that I'd made a really big mistake. And so I set about my new mission, which was flipping my TurboGrafx for a Super NES. Turned out poor little Scotty far down the road also got caught up in the TurboGrafx hype. That might have been a little bit my fault. So my Turbo found its new home, and I found some cash which went towards my Super NES, which I loved very dearly for many, many years. Sorry if you got bones, Scotty. I sure hope you enjoyed your TurboGrafx. Neutopia from 1990. What might be described as a poor man's Zelda game. And here's Soldier Blade from 1992. This game's fantastic. It's probably one of my favorites from the console. So finally, I just wanted to compare price-wise. The TurboGrafx Mini I paid about $170 Canadian for, which included delivery from Japan. An original TurboGrafx these days goes for around $200, and the games are quite expensive. Even if you went with a somewhat lower cost option of a flash cart, that's another over $100 Canadian easily. Then you'd want a RetroTink to do the line doubling, which is another over $100. And even then, you're still not able to hook everything up without two more pieces, which include the HD Retrovision component cable, as well as a component that plugs into the back port on your TurboGrafx-16, which outputs to component. You can pick those up off of eBay for about $35 to $40, I believe. So let's just say for easy figuring, $200 for the console, plus $100 for the flash cart is $300, plus another $100 for the Tink is $400, plus the HD Retrovision cable is probably about $480, and then another, we'll say $40 for the adapter. You're now at $520, and that's honestly conservative. The real total would come out to more than that. So for over $500 compared to $170, I'd say that the value for the Mini is the pretty obvious choice, because you would need to add all of those things to get a comparable video signal from an original TurboGrafx. Which do you think is better, the Mini emulator or the OG monster? Well, that's it for this time. Any of your thoughts or opinions are appreciated. Please leave your comments below. Thanks very much for sticking around. Always remember your happy thought, and I'll see you next time.